Hey everybody, it is me, Vincent. Welcome back to another VincentVision. Welcome back to another Halloween Horror Nights video. We're having some fun today. In this video, we are ranking the 10 houses of Halloween Horror Nights 2025 at Universal Orlando. There has been a lot of anticipation and hype for this year's event, and I am happy to say, I think it's delivered. This is a really good year, and previously I did a hype video where I kind of ranked all the haunted houses that I was most excited to see. Now that I've done the event a couple times, my list has changed quite a bit, so I am excited to share it with you guys. So we're gonna get right into it. Remember, this is all just for fun. This is my personal opinion on this year's haunted houses. Haunted houses are so all over the place. Everyone can have their own different experience. One thing is for sure though, I got scared in each of these haunted houses. This year is a really great year, and the performers that are leading the event this year are really making it what it is. So even if a house is still lower on my list, it doesn't mean anything about the performers. Everyone this year is seriously kicking butt. Now we are talking about this year's haunted houses, so I would expect some mild spoilers. There will be clips from the haunted houses in this video. Thank you to all of the wonderful content creators who made this amazing high quality footage inside the houses. As a creator who doesn't have the opportunity to film inside the haunted houses but still wants to make content about this year's event, your videos are incredibly helpful. So thank you guys for making them. And everyone else, let's get into it. We're starting this list off strong with what could be a pretty controversial take, and it is that Fallout is my number 10 house. This is a little bit of a surprise because Fallout is one of the big intellectual properties of this year's event, which usually means Universal will put their best foot forward and give fans of the series a good, high-quality haunted house. And I think they did that. This house has some very impressive sets and does a great job, at moments, recreating the world of Fallout in a haunted house setting. My problem is that it's just not really scary. Ever since it was announced, I questioned how Fallout would fit into Halloween Horror Nights. The Amazon show, which the house is based on, definitely leans more towards the cynical, comedic aspects of the Fallout universe versus some of the more horrific details of a post-apocalyptic America that you could create a scary haunted house with. It also doesn't help that this house is one of my least favorite versions of a haunted house, which is what's known as the book report. This is when you're going through a house based off a movie or a show, and all it's doing is taking you scene by scene in the order that it happens. The characters you recognize will pop out, say their iconic catchphrase or a memorable quote from the show, and then disappear back into their boo hole. Universal's done this before for houses like Stranger Things, but it works better for Stranger Things because the show is meant to be scary. The Fallout house feels like a commercial, and it's even made worse by the fact that if you're not someone who is familiar with the show, you'll have no idea what the hell is going on in this house. Also, a little bit of a nitpick, but I do wish that the ghoul in this house was prosthetic makeup instead of a rubber mask. I know it'd probably be hard to do and a lot of extra work, but it's weird that such a memorable character in the show looks so forgettable in the house. This house is going to have one of the longest waits of this year's HHN season, and unless you're a mega fan of Fallout, it might be better for you to save that valuable time and leave this house behind in the wasteland. Number 9 is Grave of Flesh, one of this year's original houses. This also might be a hot take, because a lot of people that I've spoken to have this ranked at their bottom spot. But what I think this house does better than Fallout is something that's very important to the event, which is being scary. The house is claustrophobic, dark, and at times can feel like an endless maze. The performers in this house bring the intensity in these catacombs, and this house has some unique rooms that can provide some classic HHN scares. The issue with this house is that it's very, very repetitive, and it's also not very clear what's going on. The concept of Grave of Flesh is that we are at our funeral and we go to the afterlife and get eaten and torn apart by mole rat monsters. It's a very simple idea and easy to understand in the beginning of the house, but things start to get a little abstract once you go further in, and I think it's very easy to lose the plot. And it is repetitive. While there are some cool rooms like the MC Escher Haunted Mansion type stair section and the UV dark room with the guts hanging, most of this house is dirt hallways with generic otherworldly creatures. This is a house that's going to be carried by its performers and will usually have one of the lowest weights throughout the night. So see it if it makes sense if you can, but if you don't need to know what happens after you die in Grave of Flesh, that's okay too. Hatchet and Chains Demon Bounty Hunters takes the number 8 spot for this year's event. This is a fun house. It's loaded with tons of details, lots of actors, and some tight and clever spaces that work perfectly for setting up good scares. For those who may not know, Hatchet and Chains is actually an idea that comes from last year's Slaughter Cinema 2 house. This was a house that featured different, cheesy, B-movies as scenes that you'd walk through. And I kind of wish that the Hatchet and Chains house this year played into that a little bit more. Other Slaughter Cinema houses like Yeti Campground Kills from HHN 32, and even the Cat Lady of Crooked Lane Scare Zone from this year's event, do a good job at managing the silliness and absurdity of their history while still managing to be like scary, and I think that Hatchet and Chains takes itself a little too seriously. That's my only real complaint with it though, because overall it's a very solid house, and honestly feels like one of the longest houses that have been in that tent location. It's a very good use of space from the design team. With its location in the park and average to lower wait times, I can see this house being a first-time HHN house for a lot of visitors, and I think these two Demon Bounty Hunters will make a good first impression. Right next to Hatchet and Chains is Doll's Let's Play Dead, our number 7. I actually really enjoy this one, and I think it has a simple premise that works perfectly for a haunted house. You are the size of a toy and stuck in the dollhouse of a twisted girl named Lila, who is like the super evil version of Sid from Toy Story. This house has great set work and very quickly and easily tells guests that they are now toy size, which I think is great. I love when you can get the who, what, when, where, and why as quickly as possible in a haunted house. This house isn't as scary or as intense as some of the other houses on this list, but I think that's okay. There's a house every year that's the fun house, one that takes itself a little less serious than the others, and you might end up laughing through your scares instead of hiding your head. I think Dolls is that house this year, and I think it does a better job of doing that over something like Fallout, which I think is supposed to be comedic, but just doesn't like fit in with the event. If I had to give a gripe for this haunted house, is that I guess it would be that a lot of the costumes aren't very scary, and a lot of the performers are out in the open, so I could imagine it's hard to scare people in this house. And it does have some good scare moments, like under Lila's bed and the room with the rat, but overall this house is going to do a much better job giving you the creeps than it is the scares that are going to make sure you take care of your toys. This next haunted house sits at number 6, and it is Gulkin Monsters of the North. Gulkin is honestly my dark horse of this year's event. I did not expect this house to be as good as it is. This is an original house in the back tents and has some of the most impressive and beautiful scenic work of this year's event. There are some legitimately jaw-dropping rooms in Gulkin that would normally only be able to be pulled off in a soundstage haunted house. Things like the burning wicker man and spoilers when you enter the belly of the Gulkin beast. So cool. It also doesn't hurt that this house is strong on scares, and there are lots of great boo holes and opportunities for scare actors to get you good. I don't really have much else to say about Gulkin, honestly, other than that I am very impressed with it, and I think that with Horror Nights, there's such a big focus on the IP houses that it's easy to skip out or forget about the originals. The original houses are what make HHN special, and for a very long time the event was only original houses. Gulkin is one of the best original houses of the year, and you should make the time to see it because it is very good. Now right in the middle of this list is Five Nights at Freddy's, a house that I was very excited for and one that I know a lot of people are looking forward to seeing. I'm happy to say that Five Nights at Freddy's is a very satisfying house and one of the coolest and most memorable of the year. This house, more than any other, manages to capture the magic of Universal and Horror Nights, which is that you are getting to step foot into your favorite worlds. You are getting to ride, or in this case, walk, the movies. Just like Harry Potter during the day, Five Nights at Freddy's fans are going to get some major wish fulfillment here, where Universal has managed to create a real-life Freddy Fazbear pizza. The entrance facade is perfect, and oh my gosh, that first room where you see Freddy, Bonnie, and Chica performing is so impressive that it almost feels like a crime that you can't stay in that room for longer. The animatronics themselves are awesome too. In this house, you get a lot of face-to-face encounters with Freddy and the others, with some super accurate puppets that look like they came directly from the movie. The puppets in the haunted house were actually made in collaboration with the Jim Henson Creature Shop, who made them for the movies. There's a really ambitious mix of technology and puppetry in this haunted house that really highlights the level of quality that HHN regularly performs at. The big ding with this haunted house is, it's just not scary. As cool as the puppets are, they're limited by their size and movement, so you end up kind of just like watching them versus actually getting scared by them. And all of the non-puppet scares in this house are what they call victim scares, which are just people who are getting chased or killed by the robots, and it's just not as threatening or scary for me. And I'd be bold enough to say that it is worth braving the long line that it'll have just to be able to see the production value of Halloween Horror Nights at its highest form. Number 4 is a house that I had pretty low on my most anticipated list, and I'm actually really pleased with how much it surprised me. This is Jason Universe, located in the Fast and Furious queue, and by leaps and bounds, it is the best haunted house that has been in that space. I was really worried about this house being a mandate house. You know, there's a big rebranding of Jason that's going on right now that doesn't involve the original Friday the 13th movies, and I had fears that this house was going to be like the Chucky house from a couple years back, which was super focused on promoting the sci-fi show. And luckily for us, it's not that. This house feels like a tribute to the core of the Jason Voorhees character and is presented in a way that if you're not familiar with his movies, you're still going to have a good time getting scared in the house. Jason is such an iconic movie slasher that I think most people get the gist of him pretty easily, but the house still manages to provide fan service for those hardcore fans of Jason with all the different characters, kills, and versions of Jason that you see going through. The first half of the house takes place in Camp Crystal Lake and has tons of tight corners and great spots for Jason to pop out at you, and he does, like nonstop. Around every corner in this house is Jason. And then you head into the second part of the house, which I'll simply call the Gauntlet. This is a narrow hallway where you get attacked by what feels like 20 different versions of Jason throughout the years. It is one of the most intense segments of the houses this year, and for a lot of people, this is going to be a really scary house because of this one section. With so much focus on modern horror at this year's Horror Nights, it is great to see that a classic slasher like Jason can still make some waves at the event and make a killer impression on fans. Number 3 is WWE Presents The Horrors of the Wyatt Six. Now, let me be clear on this one here. I am not a wrestling fan. I don't watch it, and before Horror Nights, I definitely had no idea who Bray Wyatt or the Wyatt Six were. To prepare for the event though, I watched a lot of the shows and movies related to the year, and one of them was a documentary on Peacock called Bray Wyatt Becoming Immortal. This gave me just the right amount of history, context, and emotional backstory to connect with this haunted house. You've probably heard it from a bunch of other people as well, but this house is a great tribute to the wrestler Bray Wyatt. I think it shines a light, no pun intended, on his legacy, his creations, and the fact that his actual brother was involved with the production of this house shows me that this house is a project made from love and appreciation, and it doesn't really feel like a commercial or a promotion for the WWE. Wrestling fans are a passionate group, and they are going to absolutely love this house, especially the first half, which has recreated the real behind-the-scenes world of WWE. Where this house really starts to shine, though, is about halfway through, when you pass through the tunnel of televisions into the more abstract world of the Wyatt Six. That hallway is such a standout moment in this house and easily one of the coolest scenes in this year's event. I also think that this house has the best use of media in any Horror Nights house that I've been through, with screens featuring Uncle Howdy, Bray Wyatt's brother, guiding us through the world of the Wyatt Six. I won't use this video to try to explain the lore of these characters, but the house gives each of the members of the Wyatt Six time to shine in their own unique scenes that still manage to feel like peak HHN creativity. These characters are very connected to wrestling, but at the same time, this house has given them a little more depth, and in a way they feel like they were created just for the event. This tribute to Bray Wyatt and the scares of HHN then perfectly weave together in the third act of this house, and what we are left with is one of the most unique and well thought out haunted houses of HHN history. It doesn't happen very often where you feel the passion behind a haunted house as you walk through it, and because of that, I think Horrors of the Wyatt Six is a must-see house. Number 2 is the shining star of this year's HHN, and it is in fact Terrifier. This uber gory movie franchise has become super popular in the past few years, and Art the Clown is kind of a modern horror movie star. Universal knows he is so popular that they actually have him roaming around the park and causing chaos all throughout the night, and people love it. He's reached that level of horror movie zeitgeist where I see kids wearing shirts with him on it, and I can only hope that they haven't actually watched the movies. So needless to say, Terrifier is a very, very big deal, and this house sits at the top of a lot of people's hype lists. Luckily for us, the Terrifier house absolutely delivers on that demand and is a must-do house at this year's event. The house is a perfect blend of scary, creepy, gory, and fun. 4 things that are very important to having a good Halloween Horror Nights house. The house also satisfies fans of the franchise by recreating some of Art's most iconic kills while also using the unique funhouse theme of the house to introduce newcomers to Art and the world of Terrifier. There's a lot of fan service in this house, and it never feels out of place or unnecessary. This house is also super long. Its location is Soundstage 25, which in previous years has held some of the largest houses at HHN. Terrifier goes on forever and feels like it's twice as long as some of the other houses at the event. And then of course, After all the madness of going through the funhouse, seeing all of Art's kills, there is the ending to this house where you have to pick whether you want to pick the dry path or the wet path. Splitting off paths doesn't happen very often in an HHN house. It's unique to Terrifier this year, and it adds an extra layer of fun to an already fun house. Terrifier is one of the rare cases where a promising IP is introduced to the event and it 100% sticks the landing. When you go to this year's Horror Nights, you gotta see Terrifier. And that leaves us with my number 1, El Artista, A Spanish Haunting. Terrifier is a fantastic house, and it's going to satisfy a lot of the casual visitors to the event who come to experience IP houses. But El Artista, for me, encapsulates what makes a perfect Halloween Horror Nights house. Scenic beauty, haunting atmosphere, and good scares. El Artista hits all those with 100% marks and can only be compared to Dead Man's Pier Winter's Wake from 2022. Do you remember how good that house was? Just like Dead Man's Pier, El Artista features one of the most stunning entrance facades in the past 10 years of Horror Nights. La Casa Creacion, a possessed manor that sets the tone and theme of this year's event. The Conservatory, a year where the house is the icon. How cool is that? Scenically, this house is beautiful and one of the best of the year. Every room you walk through in this manor is beautiful, and Sergio Navarro's painted art on the walls is disturbing. But the house also has some really unique scares. There are mirrors, still walkers, and even performers flying above you throughout El Artista that guarantee that you're gonna get scared in a different way every time you turn a corner. I will always love the IP houses. Riding the movies is the core foundation of what makes Universal attractions special, but houses like El Artista are what cement Halloween Horror Nights as the premier Halloween event in the nation. El Artista, A Spanish Haunting shows us what can come to life when the creatives behind this event are firing on all cylinders, and my number 1 house on this list is a true work of art. And that, my friends, is my ranking for the haunted houses of this year's Halloween Horror Nights. Like I said at the start of this video, this year is a pretty fantastic year, so you're gonna have a good time regardless of what haunted houses you go to. But I will say on my personal end, I'm pretty surprised with how much my list has moved around, and that is always a good thing. We love surprises here at HHN. Let me know how my list compares to yours and what haunted houses you're excited to see in person when you visit this year's event. Thank you guys for watching another VincentVision, and I will see you guys in the fog. Bye-bye.